Good morning. My name is David Kamite, and welcome to Voices of Impact. Today we have a very special guest, Micheal Clay of the DASNY organization. And we're going to spend a few minutes today learning more about both DASNY and Micheal Clay and the efforts that DASNY and the organization has taken on diversity issues and what Micheal has contributed in the last 10 years of DASNY. So again, welcome, Mr. Clay. Could you give us a little bit background about both Micheal and DASNY to begin with?
Sure. Thank you for having me, David. I'll first start out with DASNY. The Dormitory Authority, State of New York, better known as DASNY, is a public authority located in New York State. Our corporate offices are located in Albany, New York, and we have satellite offices in Rochester, Buffalo, and in New York City. DASNY is engaged in two lines of business. One, DASNY on the finance side has been the number one or number two issuer of tax-exempt debt, probably for the past 7 years or so. And we do that on behalf of the state of New York and other clients by New York State statute. We utilize minority women-owned businesses as broker-dealers, investment managers, co-leaders, and as well as finance to assist us with and legal, and to help us to execute for both public and private clients. Some of our private clients include, and they're too numerous to name, Fordham, NYU, Cornell, as some of the top colleges and universities in the state of New York. We also do, I said, the second item is construction. We do building construction from Buffalo, New York, all the way to points beyond Staten Island. We're involved with higher education and healthcare, and we hire architects, engineers, construction managers. We hire contractors. We also have a division, a procurement division, in which we provide our clients with equipment, furniture, and other items as they may need for buildings that we either are building for them, rehabilitating for them, or buildings that have been built already and they're just looking to re-equip those buildings. Sustainability is a major initiative for DASNY, as well as minority, women-owned business, and service-disabled, veteran-owned businesses. My role in the organization, and I've been with DASNY, it will be 23 years in September of this year, has been to help lead the diversity and inclusion construct within DASNY. Currently, I am the Senior Director of the Opportunity Programs Group, and I'm also co-leader of procurement. And I underscore that because I believe as of today, I am the only individual in the state of New York in a public arena that is both leading the diversity and inclusion initiative as well as being co-leader of procurement. And that started about 4 years ago, going on 5. It helps to have your finger on the pulse. And of course, in any public or private organization, procurement is the lifeblood of that organization. So we're able to talk about diversity and inclusion from the onset. DASNY, as a public authority, receives no funds from the state of New York to operate. So as a result, our clients are our lifeblood. And as a result, all of us within DASNY are customer focused on providing projects on time and within budget for our clients.
It's great. Now, for our audience, it's for transparency. The Kamite Group, myself and my team, has had the pleasure of working with DASNY since 2009. And there's been a number of initiatives that Micheal has brought to the table in terms of facilitating, solving issues surrounding minority participation. So I thank him for our opportunity to work with DASNY, number one. But on behalf of all the MWBEs in the space, I believe you're one of the leaders out there in the space, not only locally in the city of New York, to the state, but also nationally. So shout out to you and thank you for all that you do. And the organization. I've since been involved with 3 different leaders. Give a special shout out also to the current CEO of DASNY, Ruben, who also supports the many things I think you bring to the table to him. And to that end, let's talk about the current state of affairs, I would say, given COVID-19 decimated a lot of folks, a lot of businesses. Those that survive are facing different challenges as things reopen and sort of not reopening. So what do you see? What do you hear? What are the challenges that you've been hearing from the MWB community in terms of getting through COVID and getting to the next chapter, whatever that might look like?
Well, David, I've been blessed to be, and I kind of had to remind myself of this, a public servant for the state of New York for 35 and a half years, which is a long time. I've been involved with diversity and inclusion, and specifically minority, women-owned business participation for all of my public career. And so, unfortunately, the drumbeat, as I'll call it, has always remained the same, and it changes by industry. So don't misunderstand me. This isn't a blanket statement across all different areas of procurement or business. But in the construction arena, the major hurdle for all businesses, but specifically minority and women-owned businesses and service-disabled veteran-owned businesses, is the lack of capital, the lack of bonding, and back office. Those 3 things, among others, certainly head the list of challenges. And again, as you've indicated, during the pandemic, this has been even a larger concern because the margin for error, I'm sure you're a reader of the Wall Street Journal and other business periodicals. It's easy for all of us to see that businesses are going out of business. Marginal businesses are struggling. So certainly the minority and women-owned businesses, I like to say when the majority community has a cold, then the MWBE and service-disabled veteran-owned businesses have pneumonia. So lack of capital, lack of bonding. And again, when you're working for the state of New York, the state finance law requires in construction that any projects $100,000 or more, the bidders are required to have or to present to, in this case, DASNY, a labor material performance bond for the amount of the project that they're bidding on. Well, if most of the businesses do not have bonding, then they're already at a significant disadvantage. And therefore, they're relegated to being subcontractors. I'm not speaking suppliers at the moment. I'm just talking subcontractors. And as a result of that, there are additional challenges in being a sub. Payment, change orders, communications, because you're not in line with the owner. We go to the prime contractor, and then the prime contractor communicates to all subs, including the MWBEs and the service-disabled veteran-owned businesses. So you can see, being a subcontractor, you're further away from the money. And when you're further away from the money, I think it's easy to say that more things can happen, and those things are not positive. They're generally negative. So lack of payment, slow payment, no payment, change orders, all those things now filter in to be tremendous hurdles. And especially during this pandemic, we've lost a significant amount of minority businesses and women-owned businesses across the country, but particularly in New York State. So in construction, those challenges still remain the same, and they just, in my opinion, have been exasperated because of the pandemic.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think for the audience, one of the key points Michael made with regards to money, because it's always about money at the end of the day, right? Is DASNY has had a major initiative to help prepare minority contractors, diverse businesses to be primes, to support Michael's point. And self-serving, that's one of the things that we, the KMI Group, focus on relative to helping to educate and position those contractors so they could be prime, so they can get paid first. And we utilize a number of tools to do that. But going back to the state of affairs again, I guess what I fear as well is the pool has shrunken, and whatever that number is for the New York community, or the Northeast, if you will, where there's a lot of construction coming. How do you, for those contractors that are prepared, that can be prime or ready to participate on the numerous projects coming up? I see the economy in general having an issue relative to hiring folks, whether it's restaurants, whether it's McDonald's, whether it's Walmart. We see the incentives of major corporations fighting the supply chain of workers coming into the marketplace to work. And this isn't a political comment, but I look at it the same way relative to diverse contractors. You have potentially a smaller pool than pre-COVID, and you have all these projects that are about to come out at JFK, and there's a number of projects that are rolling. And the goals are out there. There's still 30% for the state of New York. Do you see your organization and others fighting, if you will, to make those goals? And is that even more difficult now that the supply of diverse firms are less?
Good question. I think all of the public entities, that's executive agencies in New York State and public authorities, we all deal with the same pool of contractors. Whether you're in Buffalo, whether you're in Albany, whether you're in Queens, New York, whether you're in Harlem, we're all dealing with the same group of diverse businesses because of the fact that the state of New York back in 1988 started a certification program. And as a result of that, firms that are certified are given, I won't say preference, but are who and how the 30% is achieved. So if you only have so many firms in New York State, and I want to say at this point today, maybe 9,000 that are certified, and all of them are not certified in construction, and you have 95 agencies and or authorities in which probably 7, 8 are involved in the construction arena, then we're all going after that 7 or 8 public entities are all going after that certified pool. And then you throw in the pandemic issue where there's less firms, which is an excellent point that you've raised, then it becomes a challenge on how do we achieve 30%, not only on a prime perspective, which I've already outlined, there are challenges there before the pandemic, but also in subcontracting, because the prime bidders, they've been saying that the availability of MWBs are less. They're saying it now more so with the pandemic. And so those firms that are capable and able are now being deluged, I'll say, with opportunities. Now, whether those opportunities are real or not, that's another conversation, but they are being sought after. Let me put it that way. So look at it this scenario. You've got the 95 agencies in which 7 or 8 are concentrating on construction. We're all looking to maximize MWB participation as prime contractors. And then you have the subcontracting piece where a majority low bidder on one of those 7 agencies are looking for diverse contractors to help meet the 30% requirement. It's a quagmire, quite frankly, and there's no clear answer or short answer for this. But that's the hand that we're dealt. And me, as a senior executive member of DASNY's management staff, I that is something that I'm concerned about because I need to be in order for DASNY to continue to um, fulfill its requirement of maximizing 30% across all of our procurement areas, but especially in construction.
And, and thank you for that. And it is about simple economics, right? Supply and demand. So the demand will be there. We are concerned about the supply. And in short, while that might seem negative, but those who have survived, those who are prepared, are in a better position to really capitalize on this change, this time. And for those that are coming into the marketplace anew, if they are also prepared or get prepared, they'll have opportunity as well. I do believe that more and more firms will be coming on board. We have the infrastructure bill that's hopefully will be passed very shortly with the Senate and the House. I see a lot more opportunities coming around the next 3 to 5 years. And I think across the country, across the board, and particularly in New York, where you manage, those that are new entrant, if they follow the DASNY philosophy, if they follow the concept of being prepared, I think ultimately it is possible that those who unfortunately left the marketplace can be replaced and get the numbers back up. But I think for the foreseeable next 9 months, if not a year, it will continue to be a challenge. So next topic is, with that in mind, do you see any changes? Do you see any political pressure in terms of the large primes and others saying there's not enough supply, as you mentioned? So should we scale back to 30%? Do you see that argument coming around again? Because that's a heated argument, and the political environment is ripe for discussions about, hey, how do I meet the goals? Why should I be penalized if there's not enough supply? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's not a new argument or a new concept, David. It's been out there for a number of years. And I think as a result, as we've been talking about here for the past several minutes, because of the pandemic, that has intensified. And some of the, what I call them, the shaker and movers, the large CM firms, the large general contractors, and others are certainly putting forth that argument. And that does put a fair amount of pressure from a political perspective, I think, on the agencies to continue to, I think, espouse 30% and maximizing legitimately participation. And you mentioned the infrastructure bill, which was recently passed last night, in fact. But that's federal funds. DASNY, there's only 2 entities unless, again, it bifurcates to other agencies and other counties and others. But that is DBE, Disadvantaged Enterprises, which is a whole nother group, a smaller group of contractors that, and generally speaking, have smaller capacity that will be participating in the 2 main agencies at this point. Again, that's subject to change based on Congress being able to make changes or whatever. That's the MTA and the Port Authority of the state of New York and New Jersey. Those entities and DOT possibly would receive funds directly as a result of the infrastructure bill. But that does nothing for DASNY in terms of contract opportunities, because we do not receive any funds directly from the federal government to do construction projects for any of our clients. So there are ways around it, but I think politically, the legislature is going to have to figure that out. And I think at the end of the day, yes, this is a concern about availability, capability, and execution by minority and women-owned businesses and service-disabled veteran-owned businesses to be able to participate not only on this infrastructure money as it comes forward, but also, don't forget, New York State has a $150 billion budget. So, despite the infrastructure bill, which is great, glad to see it, there's still tons of work, or tons of opportunity, I should say, that could present itself to the minority, women-owned business, and service-disabled veteran-owned business community.
No, thank you. And I should have been a little bit more specific. My question, which you answered, the infrastructure bill does impact DBEs mainly, but there are MBEs that, as you know, that are DBEs as well, such as our organization. So there's an opportunity for the MBE, DBE to take advantage on both sides as well. So the other point I wanted to share with our audience is we've presented a number of tools to the DASNY organization and to others, which you've adopted, and we thank you for that as well. Those tools are helping some of the points that you've made in terms of making sure or providing a path for MWBEs to participate, survive, and grow. So again, thank you. And there's other agencies that are considering it. So if you wouldn't mind, speak to that in terms of how DASNY utilizes various tools from organizations like myself and others to promote diversity, because we view DASNY as one of the leading agencies in looking, searching, and facilitating MWBE development.
Well, David, one of the things that I think has helped DASNY to be a leader, besides the hard work of my team, as well as others within DASNY, to make diversity and inclusion a business requirement. For us, it's a goal, it's a contractual goal, but I think in order for it to really permeate through an organization, it has to be more than just a goal or a contract requirement. And so from executive management, I've been blessed to be in a position to help facilitate that. And through that, we've partnered with your organization, which I want to thank you publicly for your creativity, your commitment to the minority women-owned business community. And we started back in 2009 with a surety bond training program. And we've run that program, with the exception of a year or two, every year, and helping to deal with this issue of lack of bonding or surety bonding in the minority business community. So out of that, we saw some challenges. You can help a firm, as you well know, get surety bonding, which is a credit-based product. But if they don't have capital access, if they don't have back office, then it's a little bit of a stretch to get to surety bonding, because the surety wants to see all of that, as well as a level of comfort that the minority, woman-owned business, the service-disabled, veteran-owned business, any business is going to be able to execute, because the sureties are not in the business of extending bonding to a shaky contractor. Let me be frank here, okay? They want to hedge their bets, okay? So one of the things that we've been able to do with your able-bodied assistance, and you and I have worked on this for, a while. I think my haircut was a little different when we started this. So that involved a new concept, which we have went through a procurement on, called the Capital Management Plan, or the KMITE Capital Management Plan. So what is that? That basically is a concept where surety bonding, capital access, and back office are addressed in one solution. And that solution is administered through funds control, in which it would enable a minority, woman-owned, service-disabled, veteran-owned business to be able to be a prime contractor once pre-qualified. Then they would put together an estimate, submit that estimate as a prime. And that's what I have to keep. And I don't mean to be redundant, but that's why I think this is such a game changer, is the fact that we are now no longer talking about providing businesses or helping them to be subcontractors. We're talking about them being a prime, which would mean they would bid directly to DASNY. They would be able to fulfill the state finance law requirement on projects over 100,000. They would have a labor material performance bond. They would submit a bid directly to DASNY. If they are the lowest responsible bidder, then and they have the requisite experience, which is all outlined in the bid, then they will have the opportunity to be a prime contractor. And through the administration of the K-Mite Capital Management Plan, there's a funds control component. So all the employees are paid, all the subs and suppliers are paid. If it's a PLA project, benefits, union benefits are paid on behalf of the MWBE in their name, so that if there's a credit issue or credit needs to be strengthened, then certainly they're in a position to do that. We have a partner that we've been able to attract to provide capital access. You are in the process of finishing negotiations with that private sector partner, and the initial capitalization of the capital access for this component, K-Mite Capital Management Plan, is $10 million, which is nothing to sneeze at. So that means that a minority woman-owned SDVOB business could come to your organization because they want to bid on a project at DASNY, get pre-qualified, put together an estimate, submit that estimate to DASNY, become the apparent low bidder, and be awarded the contract as long as they're the responsible apparent low bidder. And that is a game changer, because especially in this time frame of the pandemic, where, as we've talked about for the past several minutes, we've lost firms due to the pandemic, to be able to encourage the remaining firms as well as new firms that they have an opportunity to participate in the construction arena with bonding, capital access, and back office. By the way, there are reports that are generated so that the MWBE is aware of, what monies they're getting, how's it going, and of course, any remaining funds go directly to the MWBE. Another component of this is that, obviously, as a subcontractor, pricing for materials and equipment is critical. If you pay more for materials and equipment, and your labor is good and your overhead and profit is reasonable, then you could still lose the bid because you're paying more than the next bidder for the same material and equipment. So this program has included a MWBE supplier, one of the largest MBE suppliers of construction materials and equipment in New York City. It's included an electrical supplier and a plumbing supplier. And what that does is they're part of the program. So because of them being a part of the program, then they have agreed to competitive terms and pricing for those firms who want to utilize them to submit a bid to DASNY. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't underscore, David, how critical this is, because now you're in a position to be able to get good pricing, competitive terms for materials and equipment, and be able to get capital access you need, mobilization, paying your employees, paying your subs, paying your suppliers, and being able to do what? Concentrate only on the work. You're not worrying about robbing Peter to pay Paul from this project or another project. You have what you need to execute on that contract. And as you well know, in the construction world, whether you're minority, women, service disabled, or majority contractor. That is a major issue that most of the contracting community has because they try to go over from one project to another. Let me take a payment from project A. I'm going to use it for a change order on project B. And in the meantime, both projects blow up because what they thought was going to happen didn't happen. Sometimes no fault of their own, sometimes they're at fault. And as a result, they wind up in quicksand. With this, they receive project-specific funding, not a line of credit, project-specific funding for the project that they are the apparent low bidder on, and their support in terms of DASNY, my team, and the construction division team, making sure that they are abiding by the terms and conditions, the specifications, so that there's no challenges for that firm relative to not completing the project on time and within budget, which of course the sureties are thrilled about because their risk is mitigated. And that's the commitment that DASNY has made, DASNY management, to ensuring any firm participating in the capital management plan, the KMITE capital management plan, is going to be monitored to ensure that they are in a position to execute. Because again, all the work we have is on behalf of our clients. Our clients do not have to use DASNY for any work. So therefore, it's imperative that we're able to deliver for our clients, and every DASNY employee is singularly focused on making sure that that happens in whatever role that they may have. So again, the contractor is just an extension of the DASNY team in terms of execution on behalf of our clients.
No, thank you. That was a great summary and actually great detail, not just summary. So as we wrap up, Mike, and you've done a great job outlining DASNY's vision, what you've been involved in, at least since I've been there. And again, you've got 35 years under your belt there, quite a bit of time. Deep focus in diversity, deep focus in helping create wealth in our community. What would you like to say to the audience in terms of what the future looks like for both DASNY working with diverse firms, as well as what you see over the next 3 years that DASNY might be looking to do as well to further MWBE development?
Well, despite the dark days of the pandemic, COVID-19, the variant, all the rest of that, for me, I think the future is bright. Not only for DASNY, but also for the MWBE STDOB community. With a program like this, there's light at the end of the tunnel, ladies and gentlemen. And by the way, I didn't underscore, this program isn't just for people who don't have bonding. If you have existing bonding today, however, you'd like to be able to see it increase a little bit, then this program could be an option for you also. Again, each case will need to be evaluated, and that's part of the responsibility of David and his team, as well as the surety partners. But at the end of the day, this offers an opportunity for those firms too. So I think federally, the administration is looking at, with the infrastructure bills, $3 billion, whatever it might be, that I think is going to offer some help. I think New York State still is going to make the commitment to ensuring that the state of New York is operating as best as can to provide services to us, you and I and others, the taxpayers. So I think opportunities are going to come. DASNY's always looking at ways that we can be of better service, and the fact to leverage our expertise over the construction arena. And being that we're one of the few, if not the only statewide public authority involved in construction, then we're looking at ways that we can help to bring our expertise to bear to assist public entities with carrying out their missions as it relates to construction or finance. So I know, for example, it's been a little quiet, but this past budget cycle, we received additional funding, which had been cut previously for a $750 million lab in the Albany area for the Department of Health. And that would replace a number of smaller labs. That is now starting to ramp up again in terms of conversations about moving that ahead. Is that going to be bid next week or next month? No. But it is beginning to talk about be put in the pipeline for DASNY. DASNY is also looking at being able to provide services that we're currently not doing. So we're hard at work with our legislative director, our legal, and with executive management and figuring out initiatives that we can put forward in the next budget that would enable DASNY to be a larger player in construction, in finance, and in other areas where we might be able to leverage our expertise for the benefit of other entities. So there's work that is abound. SUNY, obviously State University of New York, is a major client of ours. CUNY, City University of New York, is a major client of ours. So as those entities, as school begins to come back in, as you know, these are 24-hour-a-day institutions. Obviously, things break down. There's also competitive nature, especially for SUNY, about residential areas. So there's discussions about what does the next residence hall look like in lieu of pandemic, in lieu of all the other challenges. So SUNY's trying to work through that paradigm. DASNY's offering any assistance that we can to help in the planning of that, because SUNY being a major client, we construct residences as well as cafeterias and other buildings on behalf of SUNY, and we would be more than happy to be able to continue to provide that expertise to SUNY as well as with CUNY. Right now, large projects, which DASNY has always been known for, are not on the horizon other than the lab, because that's symptomatic of what our clients' capital budget requirements are, which are come through the state legislature and executive government in terms of how that's going to move forward. So I don't have a crystal ball, unfortunately. What I can tell you is DASNY is committed to whatever work we have and whatever work we will get to ensuring that minority, women, and service-disabled veteran-owned businesses are at the forefront of our procurement. Hence why the KMITE Capital Management Plan and the planning that we've done becomes a vehicle that we can use to continue to move that paradigm forward. And, you know, I'm always, David, you always talk about, you know, what's the next? We're just rolling out the capital management plan, in which we did a procurement, and the KMITE group was selected in that procurement to do that. Information on the capital management plan is on DASNY's website. That's www.dasny.org. You go to diversity inclusion. There's a landing page which specifically talks about the capital management plan. Once we finish, once I should say, David and our private lender finalize the agreement on the 10 million, then there will be a marketing blitz second to none, trying to tell every minority, woman-owned, service-disabled, veteran-owned business that is interested in the construction arena that this is here, the KMITE Capital Management Plan. It's available, and all you have to do is reach out to the KMITE group to find out more about it. That's all on our landing page with a link to the KMITE group, as well as there's a video there talking about an explanation of what the program and what the concept is all about. But we're committed, David. I can tell you now, speaking on behalf of Ruben McDaniel, the Chief Executive Officer of DASNY, that irregardless of the pandemic, irregardless of whatever's going on, MWBE and STVOB will be at the forefront of DASNY's doing business with the state of New York, and we will continue to make sure that our commitment is there. And I can assure you, my personal commitment will continue to be at the forefront of this initiative.
That's great, great. Thank you, Michael. You summed it up so well, and we appreciate your time. I know you're very busy, but you've taken quite a bit of time to be our guest here. And for our audience, it's clear that DASD's committed. More specifically, there's opportunities abound for you. So please take advantage of what the DASD and other agencies are doing. But Michael gave you the website to go into. There's a lot of things that's working right now. We certainly are pleased to be a partner to participate in that and to help you participate and grow your business. But Michael, thank you so, so much for taking the time again. And we appreciate you. So thank you and goodbye, everyone.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All
Have a
right.
good day.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.